Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about things in motion. In this lesson, we'll look at words like ripple and jiggle and hover and vibrate. I don't want to give too many things away, but I think it will be an exciting lesson, and you'll see why once I get the lesson started. But as we look around the world around us, things do move, and we have different verbs and different words to describe that motion. When you see a butterfly, when you see a rock land in water, certain things happen, and we have certain words to describe what's happening. So in this English lesson, I'll look at things in motion. I think you'll enjoy this lesson a lot. Absorb. When you have a cloth, or I think this is actually a sponge, and you need to wipe something up if there is liquid somewhere, you use something that will absorb it. It's too bad there isn't a way for me to show you this. Pictures just don't really tell the whole story. Let me see if I can do something here. Oh, there we go. So as you can see, there is some coffee or tea spilled on the countertop or table here. And the person is using, I think it's a sponge, to wipe it up. The sponge will absorb the liquid. When something absorbs something, it means it goes into it. So sponges do this really well. Paper towels do this really well. Whenever you clean up some kind of liquid, it's nice to have something that will absorb it. So let me just stop the video now so that we can not be too distracted, and let me once more explain. When something absorbs, it means it literally goes inside of it. When you're done using a sponge, after it has absorbed all the liquid, you do wring it out above the sink and all the liquid comes out again. Drip. So this is something that happens on the tap in our bathroom upstairs. I still need to replace something inside the tap because it will drip after you brush your teeth or after you wash your hands. You turn the tap off, but it will still drip for a while. I think it just needs a washer, I think it's called. And I think I'll have to watch a YouTube video in order to figure out how to do it. By the way, I do stop or pause the video example after a while. It's not broken. I just don't want it to be too distracting. When we get to words like slide, you'll see why, because I think some of these might even make people feel a little bit motion sick. Anyways, taps sometimes drip, and then you need to fix them. So emit, we can use this to describe a lot of things. When you start your car, it will emit exhaust. When you turn on a flashlight, it will emit light. When you use the word emit, it means to come out of something. So those are the two best examples. When I start my van, it emits exhaust, some pollution actually. Probably not a good thing. And when I turn on the headlights, they will emit light. Now, this isn't a super common word. We usually use it mostly when talking about pollution. A factory will emit a lot of pollution through the year. But it is a word you will hear and use from time to time. Flap. So flap is an interesting one. Flap is a word we use to describe something like a flag where it's attached at one end. So you can see this flag is attached to the pole, and then it moves at the other end. And we even use it to describe the sound. This flag is probably making a flapping sound, like whoop up, whoop up. That's my best sound effect. But you can see that flap means to be attached at one end and then to move, usually in the wind, at the other end. I think flags do this. I'm trying to think. Sometimes when you're driving, if something gets, like a plastic bag gets caught on your car, it will flap in the wind and make a flapping sound. And then flicker. So the best way to describe flicker is a light source that gets brighter and dimmer. A candle is a great example. A candle will flicker. It'll both move and become brighter and dimmer. That's how we would describe that flicker. But sometimes when there's a windstorm, the lights in our house will flicker as well. They don't move, but they go on and off really rapidly. So it has a couple of different meanings, I guess. Definitely when I look at this candle, I feel like it is flickering in the sense that it's moving, but it's also getting brighter and dimmer. So it's kind of doing two things, moving and getting brighter and dimmer. Flip. So we sometimes turn on lights. In order to turn on a light, we might flip a switch. In order to turn off a light, we might flip a switch. By the way, this isn't a flip. This isn't a switch in my house. But let me just explain again, because I'm using the word switch and the word flip. So the switch is the thing on the wall. If I want to turn on the lights, I can flip the switch. If I want to turn off the lights, I can flip the switch. So you'll notice, by the way, this lesson is called Things in Motion, but I am describing some actions that people do as well. Float. So one thing I like to do when I go to the pool, sometimes we go to a pool, is I like to swim out to the middle and just float. I am able to, if I just relax, I will float. When you float, it means you are on top of the water. So this flower is floating. It's light enough that it doesn't sink. That's the opposite. If I am floating on the water, if I don't relax, I will sink. I'll go under the water. So when you float, you're on top of the water. When you sink, you go under the water. There are many things that float. A boat will float, of course. If you throw a beach ball in the water, it will float. Even a soccer ball will float if you put it in the water. So when you float, or when something floats, it is laying on top of the water and it doesn't sink. And then flutter. So when you see a butterfly, it will flutter its wings. So flutter means anytime something moves like this. It's similar to flap, by the way. A flag can flutter in the wind as well, but it's anytime something goes back and forth rapidly. So when you see a butterfly, it is a really good example. A butterfly's wings will flutter. They'll go up and down, and they'll just fly around by having their wings go up and down. They will flutter. So fold. Again, remember I said some of these are actually actions that humans do. If you have a piece of paper, and if you're doing what this person is doing, we would say that you are folding. When you fold something, it's usually in one form, and then you kind of put it on top of each other. We do use this to talk about other things as well, but I don't want to confuse you. Focus on this. He has a piece of paper. He has decided he wants to fold the piece of paper. So he is making it smaller. Maybe you need to fold a piece of paper before you put it in an envelope. Maybe you need to fold paper to make something, like you're doing origami or something like that. But when you fold, you take something that's relatively flat, and then you don't cut it, you just kind of bend it. It's probably a bad word to use, but you literally fold it. You fold by folding. So that's my description of that one. Hover. So lately there have been more and more drones in the world. One of the things that a drone can do is it can hover. That means it's not going up, it's not going down, it's not going sideways, it's not going left or right or forwards or backwards. It is staying in one spot. When a helicopter hovers, it stays in one spot in the air. That's the key thing. It's not on the ground, it's in the air. So this drone is hovering. It's able to hover because inside the computer has decided that it's going to tell the blades to spin and keep the drone in one spot in the air. So again, when something hovers, it means it's flying, it's in the air, but it's not moving in any direction. A hummingbird will often hover as it's going around getting whatever it gets from flowers. I don't know what the name is. Jiggle. This is my favorite video of all of them. Jiggle is a fun word to say as well. Anytime you have something like this is Jello, by the way. It's something we make as a dessert, but you'll see that it's very jiggly. When you move it a little bit, it keeps moving afterwards in this very unique way. So you can see that as they drop the red piece of Jello onto the green piece of Jello, everything will jiggle. So again, jiggle is a fun word to say. Jiggling, this is jiggling, is an even more fun word to say. So try to practice that a few times. Jiggle. Pop. So when you have a balloon and you have a pin, and if you touch the balloon with the pin, it will pop. It will go from being full of air to having no air. This can happen with other things, but I think a balloon is probably the most common thing to talk about. You can see this girl. She's very enthusiastic at the end. Have you noticed that? I'm being sarcastic. But she has a balloon. The balloon is full of air. When she touches the balloon with the pin, the balloon pops. It pops because all the air comes out very, very rapidly. But this is different than pop up. When you put toast in a toaster, you wait for it to pop up. So you put the bread in the toaster. Notice when I put it in the toaster, it's bread. And then I put it down. So when you put bread in the toaster, you put the toaster down. And then you wait for it to pop up. With our toaster, sometimes you have to pop it up yourself. I push a button so that my toast will pop up because I feel like if I wait too long, the toast might burn. So a little different than pop. It's has the word up, but when you have toast in a toaster that's done, it will pop up. Reflect. So when something will reflect something, it means you see a copy of it. If you look at the water here, the water is able to reflect the image of the girl. The light that's hitting the girl also hits the water, and you see her reflection. So when you look in a mirror is polished, and it's able to reflect light. The light that hits the mirror comes back out again. So that means if you look in a mirror, it will reflect your image and you'll be able to see yourself. So it has another meaning as well. It means to think about the past. So here's a sentence for you. I think as she walks along the beach, you can see the water reflect her image as she reflects about the past. So there you go. Ripple. So when you throw a rock or something else in water, the water will ripple, okay? The water will make little tiny waves as it moves out from the center. So you'll see here that someone is throwing a rock or a pebble into the water. It immediately lands and the water goes bloop. That's the sound it makes, bloop. And then little waves kind of move out from the center I think you would call them concentric circles. Someone will have to check that for me. But it's pretty cool. As a kid, I used to go down to the river and we would throw rocks in the river. And then we would watch the water ripple after we did that. It's fun to watch the little waves and see how far they go. Roll. You might think something's not, oh, there it goes. I was worried something wasn't happening here. Whenever something is turning and moving along the ground, we would say it is rolling. So when you go bowling, the ball will roll along the floor. When you kick a soccer ball, it will bounce a few times, but eventually it will roll along the grass. You could even say this, like if you had a tire and you took it off of a vehicle, you could roll it into your garage. So anytime you have something that's either round or even a sphere, and as it goes along the ground or the floor, so it's moving in a direction, it's turning itself, we would say that, describe that as roll. Roll around. If you have a chair with wheels on it, you can roll around. So we add this extra word around to the word roll. So if I am at work, I can roll around on my chair. I can roll back. I can roll forwards. I can roll over and talk to someone. I can roll around. So again, it's using the word roll, and it's using it to describe something that turns as it moves, but it kind of means that you can go in any direction. And if you've ever done yoga or any kind of exercise, when you're done, you need to roll up your mat. So when you roll something up, you start at one end and you just start kind of turning it and moving it along the floor as you turn it, and eventually it will be rolled up. If you have a carpet, you might roll up the carpet. If you have a mat, you might roll up the mat. So anytime you turn something in order to make it more compact, or to, get it ready to store or put away, you would roll it up. We live on the planet Earth, and the planet Earth turns. You could also say that it rotates. The planet Earth rotates on its axis. So this means that it's turning around a center point. So turn and rotate are very similar. Spin is very similar. The difference between spin and rotate, I think, is simply, for me, speed. You could say that the Earth spins on its axis. You could say it rotates on its axis. I think either would work. Now, rotate can also be used to describe, like if I had a piece of paper on a table, I could rotate it so the person sitting opposite me could read it. So it's any time you spin something. Slide. So this is the one where I hope this doesn't give you motion sickness. When something slides, this person is sliding. It means it moves along a surface in a very smooth way. So you'll see that this person is able to slide down the water slide because the water is slippery. The other day I was able to slide on the ice. So there's no wheels when you slide. There's nothing other than the object or person and the thing that they are on. So a water slide is a really good example. I could also, if I was sitting at a table, I could slide this glass over to you. I could slide it over. You might see that in a TV show every once in a while. If someone goes to a bar, they'll slide a glass down the bar so the person can catch it. Yes, when two things move like that, we would say that they are sliding. And spin. So remember I said rotate and spin are very similar. This is a top. As a kid, I had a top and I would spin it. And then it would spin for a very long time until eventually it wobbled and fell over. So there's the word wobble for you. Notice I was making my hand go like this. As you watch this spin, it does actually wobble a little bit too while it's spinning. So that's a good example of two things in motion. The top is spinning and the top will also wobble a little bit. And sway. So you can see these beautiful flowers by this lake. They're kind of moving back and forth, kind of slowly. Notice too, I'm making my arm kind of move gracefully. So when something sways, it means to move back and forth, usually really, really slowly. Like you can watch trees sway in the wind. You can watch flowers sway in the wind. You wouldn't use this to describe people though. People don't normally sway. But when something sways, it moves kind of one way and the other. And usually it's because the wind is blowing. And swing. So here's another action where there is a person involved. This person will swing the bat after the pitcher pitches the ball. So boom, right there, that is a swing. Now, swing can be used to describe anything similar to flap, but it's a very quick, definite action. Like a bat can swing. Let me think of another example. If you have an old clock and it has a pendulum, the pendulum will swing back and forth. In fact, that might have been a better video clip than this one. Maybe I should have looked for one where there was a clock with a pendulum that would swing back and forth. But anyways, this is a good example too, I think. And here we have topple. So there's a couple things going on here. A sugar cube falls and hits the other sugar cubes. If you watch, the stack of sugar cubes will wobble a little bit and then it will topple. So topple is anytime you have things either stacked up or something that's relatively high and it falls over. The sugar cubes are a great example. But even when there's an old building and sometimes they demolish the building, they use explosives to demolish the building. You would say that the building falls over, or you would say it topples. So it's a fun word to say as well, isn't it? Topple. I like watching. This is probably the best video example I could find for the word, for all the words I'm doing today. You have a stack of sugar cubes and then it topples. Perfect example. And then vibrate. So this is a tuning fork. You can see when this person hits the tuning fork, it's in slow motion, but it starts to rapidly move back and forth. So when you use the word vibrate, you're talking about something that's moving very, very quickly and not very far and at the same speed, kind of. So it's cool in slow motion because you can see the tuning fork vibrate and it's probably going or some note. I don't have perfect pitch, by the way, but it's cool to see things vibrate. If you look at a speaker in a sound system playing music, you will see the speaker vibrate as it recreates the sounds.